I got the wildest idea. I want you to imagine the Big Bang. Now, I hope you're imagining either a specific point or a ball expanding outward. Now, as you imagine the scenario, where the ball was after the explosion, will there be a ball? And here is a fluid dynamic simulation. That is all. Computer is being a little laggy, so it may not even work, but let me try. That is my estimate of things. I'm trying manifesting, as you can tell, and it's gonna show up. But I'm gonna try again. Usually this thing gets shut down by me. A few times I've had to drive it pretty fast and pretty far, but it's been alright. I am hoping I have a solution to this thing. I'm also very much fearing that I have a solution to this thing. If I do, it has at its core an explanation to the whole GMO, non GMO debate and who is on what side. It will be very clear. And it is also very clear by that quote that I'm using the mod 2222 on 1001 2022. Good day to you. Draft beer, not people. So, like I said, I'm trying manifesting. It's gonna show up, but we'll see what occurs. Sometimes it's good. It's good enough, and there's sometimes when it's good that it has been allowed for the general benefit of the all good. I am content. It is the Red Army all over again. So, I'm testing my space age thesis, and I believe 10 to 20 years is the length of time it takes from starting to space age in, let's say, oil age. Anything after the discovery of combustible liquids. It's about 10 20 years until manned space. That's what we can guarantee when one of these countries rises. Say Africa unites today and decides we'll go to space and stay there and start preparing to migrate 1 billion people off the planet. Say they actually do that. They can. It'll take them 20 years to demand thing. Then whatever they can do from prototype to mass production in the following 20 years. Assuming they can do US during Second World War 100,000 launches a year. First 5 years to 10 years. I have no doubt that an entire people's mobilizing to do insane goals will near always succeed. It depends on their willingness to give up their living conditions in exchange for getting that living condition. And it tremendously helps to have a very good, clear sight of what living conditions you're striving for and why the opponents is not in your space welcome. Then ameliorating the barrier between yourselves' non welcome area and their welcome area. Going to ameliorate for the damage you do in setting up your private space in helping them in the public space if they are the dominant. There are certain conspiratorial factors to knowing power, like what kind of deeds you have to do in what order to whom and so on and so forth. And so forth. So, we are seeing what kind of economy and military Second World War Scandinavia can build if it actually gets around to it. Because initially, if you have, let's say, two or more states, in this case four or even five, depending on how you count it, five by this game, states with good administrative efficiency in each one of them, and say one or two of them with lower than good, unify, and the entire region gets good administrative efficiency throughout or retains good administrative efficiency throughout. They can remove certain costly barriers amongst them, but if it drops them to a lower administrative efficiency, then it's not worth discussing. Therefore, where will the barrier be? I believe, based on my Europa Universalis and Victoria experiments, that a Scandinavian union cannot extend far into the North American continent, even were it the prime of the colonization era. It cannot be asked to extend much into it. It is not in its nature. There is a certain geographical region which can be described as beneficial to hold, but beyond that, I would not take the Great Lakes, for example. I would not surround them. There can be discussion, though I am not partial to the outcome, on touching a corner of the Great Lakes. From that rough region to the northernmost and easternmost corners would be large. It would be very large. Getting a coastline opposite to Greenland in an area that you can reliably farm if Scandinavia for some reason explodes for the whole population by terraforming it rapidly would be appropriate in terms of expansion. Looking at somebody like France taking the entire Louisiana and Mississippi Bayland area is not appropriate. You don't need that much. Leave some for the rest of us. If everybody who gets there first is going to colonize everything and start a war about it, how do you think the rest of us are going to feel? Given a bounty, you fought amongst yourselves and killed each other. The end. Now, if you were like legitimate, you would have each set up colony about the size to feed your population. In a crisis. Then you would have been, okay, next one. Who do we ship over next? Who pays us? We'll give you land like 100 kilometers west of our primary settlement. You can set up a base there. It'll be roughly square. It'll be 50,000 square kilometers. You are invited to bring everybody over from your country that can move. And once you are done, you are expected not to expand westward, but instead to bring somebody from the eastward to expand more westward for you. You may choose whom you prefer. If you had done that, everybody in the old continent would be rich. Everybody would have a cousin in the US and related to somebody in the US. And we would have been effectively wiping all kinds of economic crises from the face of the planet. Because the US has a population of 300 million. The European landmass has a population of 900 million. And the US is rather sparse. So given the competition with China, US having 200 million more people because they weren't greedy would be beneficial, assuming they'd mostly set up land where there is currently desert, which in this model they would do. You would sell the Prince of Hanover in 1850 on the condition that in 10 years of the selling contract, there be no less than 500,000 Germans living inside that state that have not lived in the United States before in 10 years. And price is 10% of regional income in addition to tax until the let's say 100,000 Germans is accomplished. Once that is accomplished, prices will drop to just the norm of the US state taxes. You can do the federal thing, the regional thing, whatever. And then just next invite the French expatriate community of Alsace-Lorraine. You know, just randomly. You go there, you go there, you go there. You know, we saw that you were experiencing poor living conditions due to dense inhabitation. There is a plot there. It is very sparse, but I believe your people know of sparse conditions. So make it your own. You know, speak German, do whatever. I expect you people to eventually learn English, but there's absolutely no rush. Speak German, and so on and so forth. Then in 100 years, when the continental Germans start their little escapades, the American Germans go like, "What are you talking about, brother? Move over here. Do not complain. I have job in garage for you." And then when the Germans start their thing, they are treated by the American Germans like the ISIS are thought of by the Europeanized Arabs. Little more than a joke. A very bad one at that. Which is, of course, a thing in and of itself. Don't get me wrong, they're up in arms about it, but it is considered a bad joke. That is my view of it. So let's look at the Scandinavian Union thing. We have, I believe, the year 1940 and about 800,000 guys in the field, if I remember correctly. 928,000. We have 24 plus 24 plus 16, which is 64, I believe. And we are pretty sparse in armaments. We would like to be more in them, but we cannot at the moment afford it. We have spent most of the beginning of the game building up infrastructure throughout the region because it is very time consuming, and for The actual tactical reason, not that it's time consuming, is the reason, is that now that we have, what, 70 divisions, 60 divisions, we cannot feed them at any of these fronts without very significant improvements in infrastructure. So, despite us having strength, we would have to fight very in depth, which would make actual defense very difficult. But if we can upgrade the infrastructure on our side of the border and make sure that it's actually capable of supporting, say, things like artillery superiority, then we can talk about actually building an artillery superiority, which is a very good idea against the Soviet Union. So, we're trudging along, and in this timeline, Germany actually won against the Soviet Union, and we are seeing a UK that is at war with the Germans, and the rest of the Dominion is with them, and United States that is at war with the Germans and the Japanese. And it is going pretty bad for the Asians, but pretty well for the Europeans. However, there are things like Republic of Turkey, which is a thing in of itself, which has been actually pretty able to defend itself, and Romania is kind of outside it, and Bulgaria has been doing pretty well actually. So it's looking like an Allied defeat in Europe and an Allied victory in Asia and a meeting in the middle. And India isn't in the Allies, but it may actually join, may eventually join. And Japan is, well, they're trying in China, but they're not doing all that hot. They're doing okay. They're doing okay. But I believe the US entry into the war has slowly pushed the Japanese back, so we can reasonably assume that Japan will be taken out. And then there will be a land connection between the US, Japanese garrison force, and the Germans in the east who are at war with the US. And there's a war in Central Asia for basically the Chinese Tibetan provinces. You can see these guys are almost all at like some sort of factionish war with one another. It's all over the place. It's dangerous for them to show unified spirit in front of anybody else, so they're you know making a mess of it so nobody can stick their head in there. It's worked for them. That's what they do in a crisis. They split up. One of Sun Tzu's motive is when you have superiority in force split up. They start to play the good cop, bad cop. You can see a lot of the facts that of our societal strength in relation to each other and how people perceived like public officials working. You can see a lot of like autistic connections there. It's very interesting. And I still need to guarantee and boost popularity in one. We have the boost going. We're going for democratic because we're a democratic nation. The Baltics at this time were pretty authoritarian and, you know, Axis leaned. In 1942, they were actually occupied by the Germans, but the regional government can be said to be pretty Axis leaned on the time around there. I've managed to keep them out of the war, and Estonia is in a faction as well as Republic of Latvia, but they aren't the next. However, the main Scandinavian Federation part joined together, but there are uh, these regions that are somewhat opposed. None of them have resistance, which is shown here, and some of them have 100% support. Two of them have 81%. I'm getting, due to the support ratings, only 83% of their resources and 98% of their industry, which is, in my opinion, pretty high, but it is considering 0% resistance as 81% support. But if you think that as a president you'd have less than 0% armed resistance to your nation and you could have 81% support, are you still getting 99% out of your factories in your country? In my opinion, these need to be taken into a different system entirely based on your support rating producing your economy. This is a good start, but it's not enough. And this is centered mostly around research. And we're in the Baltic Union as the Nordic Council, which is very interesting. And our military is centered around regional defense, and every region is covered by our military. Oh, that is not covered. There it is. I thought it looked strange. Yeah, we're waiting for the. Oh, did I actually move these guys? No, I didn't. We're waiting for the Americans, which took out Mexico, which joined the Axis to clear the entire South American continent of the Axis and then focus entirely on the Japanese or take out the Japanese in and of themselves before moving on to the Germans. And then we might pounce them, the Germans, when it looks like the Allies are finally winning, but we're not going to join at this point. The If the Soviets had put up any kind of serious fight, we would have joined. But in this timeline, they were declared on in the early part of 1941, just as the snows had melted, because Yugoslavia fell earlier to an Italian-Hungarian thing, I think. And due to there being no frost when they reached Moscow, they actually just pushed like they initially did. So they got all the way to like Arkhangelsk, Astrakhan, or something. It's here, Astrakhan. Arkhangelsk to Astrakhan before the winter. It was pretty done for the Soviets at that point. The Soviets, I think, did their winter counteroffensive, and the Germans spent like 10% of their force in garrisons, unlike like before actually fighting in the regions that they would have used in fighting in the regions, and then just put the rest in the field. Something like that, and worked magnificently for them. They defeated the Soviets in under a year, so there was no jumping to Germans. Thought about it when they demanded a memo because I can kind of consider the Baltics like safe, but I haven't guaranteed them yet. So I completely understand the desire of Istanbul to build a canal here. Completely understand it. Moat. Thinking moat. Looking at all this hustle and bustle, the moat. Completely understand that. Makes sense. Makes sense. Like the entire Scandinavian moat around the peninsula that you call the Kiel Canal. Holy shit. You can cross it in about a minute with good gear, but on foot if all the bridges are blown. Oh no. After like 3, 4 months of fighting, when it's filled with the kinds of debris that if you happen to fall upon, you die, not only because of the fall, but because of the infections, and so on and so forth. It's like a river, but without any of the benefits, like water, like. And with occasional crossings that can be done on foot, even if you blow missiles at the river forever. Really a part about a river. If you can cross it, you can blow missiles at every single crossing in it. You can still cross it. But a canal, it's a different beast. If you make it like 50 meters across, make it 30 meters deep with like closings on both ends. Make it empty. Enemy walks in to flood it with water. Enemy draws back. You pour petrol into it, light it on fire. Whatever. You gotta move. Well, I might just say what you're gonna do with your mode. What am I, mode expert? So yeah, this one's on the Americans and the UK. I have nothing to put up a fight with Germany with right now. And besides, nobody's really buying any of my shit anyway. Oh, United States is buying the most. I was surprised. We have still 110 units of steel to export. So I'm telling you, a lot of guys don't are done with steel. Germany finally fulfilled its desire for steel. It was making a fucking bundle selling to them. I can tell that the Americans need convoy support. You know how I know? Because they're not getting their steel through. Everybody else needs to get their stuff, but not the Americans. And the Americans are at war with the Germans. Means the Germans have a fucking humongous navy. Now, if we could just turn Italy and Spain, Germany would outrun them, form the Soviet European Union, and it would have cores on this whole region, plus what it has here. So what we need to do now is make sure neither Italy or Spain falls directly under German military control. That's our primary objective. So our primary goal has to be as far east as possible. And in here, there is only really one goal: unifying all this mess. And then we align with the Japanese. Because this does not look organic, does not look good. But over here, This is not good to fall. So the Hungarians finally got the North Sea of the entire Crimea. Romanians have stayed out of it like we have. I think the US is going to win against the Japanese. I think. Because I don't think the Germans are going to get involved with the Chinese, even though they have a land connection, because the AI doesn't like to get involved in these kinds of affairs. So what's going to happen is the US is going to clear out South America. Okay, it's clear. Mexico was, I believe, its main agitator. It's already got Iwo Jima. It's 1942 November. It's allied with the, yeah, authoritarian Republic of China, which is like kind of the Democratic Republic of China, but it's still considered authoritarian. However, it's considered Warm West, which is allied with the Turkestan Republic, which is fully democratic, which is weird. Japanese is authoritarian but not fascist, and Germans are fascist, so there might even be a war amongst them, but that is very unlikely. It's possible though. Though I do see that Germans are at war with almost the entire Southeast Asia and India and China. And we desperately need to get the Indians into the Allies. Then again, 33 factories. It's small. I'd focus on my economy as India. They have the population base and the unified land, but they don't have the economy. They're also post Pakistan and Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is independent from Pakistan, so they're looking at a pretty peaceful region at the moment. Might lead to the Indian Pakistan wars, but due to there being no Pakistan Bangladesh war and India giving Pakistan independence at the very beginning, we're unlikely to see as much tension. It's possible though. So the Kurds and the Germans and their allies are pushing the Iranians back, and then they're gonna run into Pakistan, and they're also pushing Turkestan. I think China might actually be done. So this is gonna fall on basically the UK can't do it, and I can't do it, so it's gonna fall on the US. US is not. Oh, US fascist. God damn it. So my next step has to be that after the Republic of Lithuania has enough democratic to switch to from authoritarian to democratic, like Latvia and Estonia have, which curiously both seem to have no, only one of them has a military guy. then I have to start influencing the US with boost party popularity towards democracy. When that happens, they will eventually join the Allies and start sharing technology with them. Then the US will, with its allies, take out Peru. With the US and the UK in the same alliance, they might have a chance against Germany, but without them, the US alone can't take the east of the continent. Eventually, Germany will become strong enough to land in the US and win if it has the entire Eurasian continent. I guarantee you. Doesn't need the UK, but it will take it eventually. But if the UK and the US ally, then they have much more political leverage and they can get most of, if not the all of the South American continent. Then, if they put up a good defensive withdrawal fight in North Africa, they can start fortifying somewhere along the Niger to Ethiopia line. And then once South America is unified under their rule, thanks to the UK and the US unifying a political front to get them to a good level as an exchange for their unification, then they can start shipping their combined army to South Africa, and then they can from there start push northward. Then it might actually succeed. Assuming India stays out of the war, the Chinese Japanese thing develops normally and Germany doesn't steamroll China into oblivion and then start pushing into Africa and India and myself stay independent. Then, when it looks like Germany is about to be pushed far enough back where if I do lose the land battle, I can form a defensive front around the salient and maintain my independence and slowly push back, then I will join the war. And India will probably do roughly the same depending on how much strength they have. So US is at war with China, Germany, and Japan, but not allied with the UK. So my first choice after the Baltic thing is solved to put US to boost democracy. That's what I'm gonna have to do. Yeah, that looks good. So this is standard planetary destruction with go to spaces and here is what this one offers for space.